A quiet evening in New Horizon City, a beat-up police station, and a woman walks in. No security, no flashy title. She's there to help a kid locked up for nothing, but when she starts asking questions, a smug cop slaps her right across the face. He doesn't know she's Claudia Sheinbaum, President of the United States. 4 minutes later, that one slap ignites a storm that stops the city cold. Curious how a single moment turned a broken system upside down. Stick around. This story's gonna hit you hard. The sun dipped low over New Horizon City, bathing the skyline in a golden glow that softened the sharp lines of downtown's glass towers. In a gritty corner of the city, far from the polished government district, a shabby police precinct hummed with its usual routine. Stacks of forms cluttered desks, low voices grumbled, and a creaky fan whined non-stop. Claudia walked in alone. No security detail, no official pins. She wore a plain ivory blouse, faded jeans, and a crossbody bag. Her face was calm, almost too calm, like she'd stripped away every hint of power to pass as just another local. Why was she there? Marcus, the son of a lifelong friend, had been nabbed for looking suspicious while heading home from a bodega with a soda in hand. A tall, dark-skinned kid with dreadlocks and bright eyes. That's all it took. Claudia approached the front desk. 2 officers were scrolling on their phones. One looked up, gave her a quick scan, and smirked. "Who are you supposed to be?" he asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "I'm here about Marcus Johnson. He was arrested this afternoon. I'd like to speak to the shift supervisor." The cop snorted, glancing at his partner. What, his mom? Or maybe his girlfriend? A woman nearby, her face hardened by years of monotony, muttered, "Head to the back if you want, lady, but you're wasting your time." Claudia ignored the jab and walked down a flickering hallway. Her pulse stayed even, but her shoulders tightened with every step. She reached a room where a young guy sat, his face bruised, staring at the ground. It was Marcus. When he saw her, his eyes shot up in disbelief. "Claudia!" Before she could speak, a burly officer with polished badges and a smug vibe blocked her path. "Who let you in? You don't belong here. Turn around." "I just want to know why he's being held. He hasn't done anything wrong." "Pipe down! You don't stroll in here giving orders, neighbor. Think you're hot stuff?" And without warning, his hand swung fast, smacking Claudia's cheek with a sharp, stinging slap. Marcus shouted. The room went still. Claudia stumbled slightly but didn't snap back. She closed her eyes for a second, then checked her watch with cold precision. Room TRS. Now. Silence swallowed the room, heavy and alive. Murmurs of confusion started spreading among the cops. Exactly 3 minutes later, the front door crashed open. 5 people in sharp gray suits stormed in, flashing federal badges. "Internal Affairs Division." The officer who'd hit her went white as a sheet. Claudia stood tall, stepped to the center, and dropped a bombshell with a voice like steel. "I'm Claudia Sheinbaum, President of the United States, and you just crossed a line." Cameras that had been collecting dust blinked on, phones started recording. Fear morphed into tension, and tension into something bigger. That room, once a fortress of untouchable power, was about to become something else entirely. For a moment, no one budged. The air felt thick, pressing down hard. The cop who'd slapped her, a guy named Reynolds, darted his eyes around, hunting for a way out that wasn't there. Claudia didn't say another word. She sat in an empty chair and watched as the federal agents got to work, rifling through files, demanding IDs, issuing orders. Marcus sat there, still shaken, his mouth half open, a drop of blood on his lip. When Claudia looked at him, their eyes locked. She gave him a small, almost motherly nod, like she was saying, "I've got you." One of the feds approached her. "Madam President, what's your next move?" "I want Marcus's full file, all surveillance footage, and the records of every officer here. Nobody leaves." Reynolds, the guy who'd hit her, tried to jump in. "This is a setup. You can't just barge in and what, officer?" Claudia cut him off, her voice steady but razor-sharp, peeling away his badge's bravado. The feds took charge. A tech set up a camera in the middle of the room. Claudia insisted everything be recorded, audio, video, the whole deal. Then she stood and walked slowly toward Marcus. She knelt to his level. "Have they hurt you before, Marcus?" "Once, when I was 12. Cops nabbed me and some buddies at a park just for goofing off." Claudia closed her eyes, memories flooding back. School hallways where she'd been dismissed for calling out bullying against an indigenous classmate. That's when it hit her. This wasn't just her fight. It was everyone's. She had a table set up in a side room, called for coffee, water, recorders, and notebooks, and summoned the press. This wasn't about one kid's case. It was about the whole rotten system. Outside, reporters started rolling in, tipped off anonymously that the president had been attacked in a precinct. What seemed like a reckless move was turning into something massive. The whole country was about to tune in. Word spread like a brush fire. At first, people couldn't wrap their heads around it. A president, no security, getting slapped. But grainy phone videos started hitting the internet, recorded by the cops themselves, too stunned to resist capturing the moment. Inside, Claudia called for quiet. She took a deep breath and asked for a portable projector. On the wall, Reynolds's face lit up. Different days, different cases, 12 complaints, 12 victims, 12 files shoved into forgotten drawers. This officer's been accused of abuse, extortion, assault, and discrimination over and over, Claudia said, clicking through slides. Every single case was buried. Every single victim was ignored. One of the higher-ups tried to cover for him. Madam President, you've got to understand, in this part of town, a lot of complaints come from grudges or even sabotage. Sabotage of what, exactly? Claudia fired back, her eyes piercing. A system that lets violence slide? Justice doesn't get sabotaged, it gets demanded. The room was choking with tension. Outside, people started gathering, waving signs scrawled on poster board. I got beat up too. My brother was arrested for nothing. Stop the abuse. Meanwhile, Claudia got a coded text on her phone. They're trying to shut you down from the inside. Orders are coming to kill this operation. She didn't blink. She just stared into a camera. I'm not backing down. Not for me, but for them. For all of us. That night, the precinct didn't sleep. Lights burned bright, streets were cordoned off, and helicopters hummed overhead, keeping their distance. Reporters camped out in shifts. Something unstoppable had kicked off. At a makeshift desk, Claudia dug through reports from internal affairs. The patterns were glaring. Arrests with no warrants, routine beatings, reports dripping with classist, racist slurs. Suspicious guy in a shopping area, defiant attitude from a dark-skinned woman, arrogant tone, no real crimes. This is a blueprint for shutting people out, she told a federal lawyer, and it's been greenlit by silence. In a corner, Marcus dozed off on a bench. Claudia watched him quietly. Even through the exhaustion, she felt a surge of clarity. Why didn't you tell anyone? Why come alone? An internal affairs guy asked. I wanted to feel what it's like to be ignored, to be invisible. That's how millions live every day. I can't stand up for them if I don't get what they're up against. The guy went quiet. Respect was starting to replace his doubt. Outside, the crowd's chants grew louder. No more injustice. President, we're with you. Inside, Claudia closed file number 12, a young trans woman detained for provocative clothes. Her stomach twisted. It wasn't just Reynolds. It was the whole system, and that system was about to face her. The next few hours were a blur of interviews, hushed talks, and jaw-dropping revelations. Claudia ordered one-on-one meetings with every cop in the precinct. Some were cocky, others terrified. But one young rookie, a transfer named Carter, stared at the floor when she questioned him. Got something to say? Claudia asked, her tone soft but firm. Carter hesitated, biting his lip, glancing around like he expected trouble. Yeah, Madam President, but not out here. They took him to a private room. In front of 2 internal affairs lawyers and a human rights rep, Carter spilled everything. He'd saved audio clips on his phone, just in case. Cops tossing around racial slurs, threatening whistleblowers, orders to teach lessons with fists, even talk about faking reports. I didn't know what to do, he said. Speak up and they'd make me disappear. You learn quick around here. Silence keeps you alive. Claudia exhaled. His confession was raw and brave. She ordered protection for Carter on the spot and started laying the groundwork for something bigger, a network to shield people who spoke out. The fear propping up the system was starting to crack. Meanwhile, Claudia Sheinbaum was blowing up online. Some called her a hero, others said she was reckless, but nobody could look away. Then a package showed up at the precinct's door, a manila envelope stamped confidential. Inside were internal memos, shady payments, fake patrol logs, lists of civilians flagged as troublemakers. "This is way bigger than we thought," a federal prosecutor said. "I know," Claudia replied, "but this time, it's not getting buried." Morning came with heavy clouds over New Horizons' north side. Claudia hadn't slept much. Her eyes showed it, but she moved like she was unstoppable. That day, she called a last-minute press conference, standing among cameras and stacks of forgotten files. "I'm not here as a president," she said, her voice steady. "I'm here as a citizen, a daughter of this country, a woman done with silence. What happened here, what we've all seen, is just the tip of a problem that's been rotting in the dark for decades." She held up papers, read from buried complaints, and dropped names. One hit like a bomb, a sitting judge tied to cover-ups for cops linked to disappearances. The reaction was instant. When she finished, she walked through a crowd of people cheering and crying, regular folks, moms, students, cab drivers, all with stories like Marcus's. An old man handed her a scrap of poster board with shaky handwriting, "Thank you for seeing us." Back inside, word came that someone was hacking the security department's servers, trying to wipe the complaints filed that night. Claudia didn't flinch. She turned to the prosecutor with the news. "Pull the secure backup, get the National Justice Council on the phone, and find a notary. We're locking this down." She wasn't just fighting for her pride anymore. She was guarding a truth some wanted buried for good. The pressure was closing in, political games, subtle threats, smear campaigns from media tied to powerful players. That afternoon, a fake video spread claiming Claudia had insulted a cop. The internet split down the middle, but then something wild happened. People flooded social media with their own stories. Real videos, secret recordings, furious posts. "They beat me up at that precinct. They insulted my sister for being indigenous. They locked my cousin up for no reason." The government couldn't ignore the wave. The National Justice Council stepped in with an emergency order. The precinct would be taken over, all cops replaced, a special commission put in charge. From a window, Claudia watched them tear down the precinct's old signs. Then she asked to speak to the country. No script, no makeup, just her and the cameras. "I've felt their contempt firsthand, but I didn't break because I'm not alone. We're done living in fear. Starting today, every voice that's been silenced will find an echo in me. I swear to you, I'm in this fight no matter what it takes." And then she made the call that flipped history on its head. "Right now, I'm setting up a people's tribunal right here. This is where the ignored get heard. This is where justice starts." Night fell and the precinct wasn't a den of corruption anymore. It was a messy, hopeful beacon, fueled by anger and the right kind of fight. Lawyers poured in, lawyers, therapists, activists, law students. They turned the place into a hub, one room for taking statements, another for digging through legal papers. Claudia didn't slow down. She handed out coffee, listened, kept moving. Then Marcus, still bruised, stepped up. "I want to tell my story. I want the world to hear it." In front of a basic camera, he laid it all out. The arrest, the slurs, the fear, the pointless lockup. "The worst part wasn't the hit," he said. "It was knowing nobody cared, like I was already marked." His voice cracked. Claudia walked over and hugged him. The whole country watched it live. The fallout was huge. Universities took a stand, nonprofits jumped in, and in a twist, the Supreme Court promised a massive overhaul of police rules. But it wasn't all rosy. That night, Claudia got a cryptic text. "They want you gone. Not just from this case, but from power. Watch your back." She took a deep breath and looked around. Tired kids with fire in their eyes, moms clutching complaint folders, old folks refusing to back down. "They can't push me out of a place I never wanted to own," she said. "I'm here to stay, not as a president, but as a witness, a fighter." And just like that, what started as a spark turned into a revolution. Dawn broke quietly like the city was holding its breath. Inside the old precinct, now a people's tribunal, you could feel the exhaustion and the grit. Claudia walked with a sealed folder tucked under her arm, delivered at sunrise. A collection of buried complaints, dug up by some nameless insider. On the cover, one word in red marker: buried. "This is the monster's heart," she whispered, flipping it open. Every page was a gut punch: missing women, faked records, judges killing cases, prosecutors in on it. At the center, a shock: the head of internal affairs for the security department, someone she'd picked for the job. It hit her hard, like a personal betrayal. She locked herself away for a few minutes and let the tears come. Not weakness, but clarity. The fight wasn't against one bad apple or one department. The whole system was rotten. When she stepped out, her eyes were clear. She called her inner circle, showed them the file, and made her choice. "We're exposing every single one of them, no exceptions. Even the ones close to me. If I go down, I'm going down with the truth." A reporter asked if she was scared of blowback. Claudia gave a tired smile. "I'm not afraid of powerful men. I'm afraid of good people staying quiet. And right now, those good people are waking up." The hammer dropped fast. The buried file went public on a global platform. New Horizon reeled, big names, untouchable types, all laid bare. Social media went wild, streets filled up, downtown trended in hours. Congress called an emergency session. Some wanted Claudia fired for overstepping. Others called her a new kind of leader. She stood before lawmakers, calm as ever. "I'm not here for your approval, I'm here for the truth. If that costs me my job, fine, but nobody gets to act like they didn't know." An opposition lawmaker shouted, "You're tearing this country apart." Claudia didn't miss a beat. "I'm making it face its reflection." The room went quiet. Hours later they ruled, no punishment for her, but the heat kept building. Military types, former allies. People started whispering she should quit. That night she wrote a letter. Not giving up, but doubling down. In a nationwide broadcast from the precinct, now called the Center for Truth and Dignity, she dropped the biggest shock yet. "I'm stepping down as president. Not because they're forcing me, not because I'm scared. I'm doing it because this fight needs a freedom I can't have in that chair." People couldn't believe it. Some cried, some raged, but others felt a spark of hope. "Starting now, I'm giving my life to the Just Voice Institute, born from this country's pain. Its only mission, training kids from the margins so no system can ever silence them again." Marcus was the first to speak up. Dozens of kids joined him, yelling, "You're not alone, we're here, Just Voice is our future." The press scrambled to keep up. No president had ever quit like this. No one had ever chosen people over power. Outside, an old indigenous woman with silver braids lit a candle by the precinct, whispering, "They hear us now, daughter. They hear us." A year later, the grimy old building was gone. In its place, a plaza with bright murals, gardens, and an open-air auditorium. At the center stood a bronze statue, Claudia standing strong, reaching out to a child. Carved at the base, "Where there was silence, there will be voice. Where there was fear, there will be justice." The Just Voice Institute took off fast. Branches in 5 states, over 1,000 kids learning their rights. It wasn't just a school, it was a lighthouse. Former victims taught classes. Ex-cops who'd turned their backs on corruption shared their stories. People who used to whisper their pain now spoke to packed rooms. Marcus ran part of the program. His story was told in college lecture halls. His grin became a symbol of fighting back. Claudia stayed out of the spotlight, focusing on the work, organizing, listening, rebuilding. Everyone knew she was still there, though. One day, a little girl walked up to her at the institute. "Are you the president? I used to be, now I'm something else." "Like what?" "A teacher. A witness. A free woman." The girl grabbed her hand. "Thank you for sticking up for us." In that quiet moment, no cameras, no cheers, Claudia knew it was all worth it. She'd never wanted revenge or fame or control, just justice. And she'd found it. This story shows us that one person's courage can break through silence and ignite real change. Claudia Sheinbaum didn't just stand up for Marcus. She fought for everyone crushed by a broken system. Her bravery teaches us that justice begins when we refuse to stay quiet, whether it's speaking out against unfairness in our neighborhoods or standing up for someone who's been wrong. In life, We all face moments where it's tempting to look away, but Claudia's fight reminds us, true strength is in raising your voice, no matter the cost. So ask yourself, what's one thing you can change today? Every step forward counts. Thanks for watching this story with me. If it hit home, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more. Drop a comment. What would you fight for? Let's keep this vibe going.